Welcome back. Another Down and Back with CornDoug. Pack show this week. I'm going to get right into it. Announced yesterday. Registration opens today. Hopefully you've already registered by the time you're watching this here or listening to it. For the ACL Canada Open, the first international open outside of the U.S. It's going to be big. So like I said, getting right into this here. 3 days of fun, starting off at 4 p.m. Doors will open at 4. I know some people are saying, "Oh, it's going to start at 9." Fake news. Unfortunately, not getting the venue until Friday morning, so we won't be starting till the Friday evening because you need time to set up. So I know there's been some people talking about there's no women's or there's no seniors. If you do remember, or even I've known from any other opens, the women's and the seniors typically are the Friday morning of the first day. We don't have that time, so the ACL will not be running that there, unfortunately. But I know some people had asked me. I talked to them about it, and then they still kind of went and were saying, "Why isn't this happening?" After being kind of told why it's not happening. So that's what all that's about. It's just a time constraint. Hopefully the next one, because I think this is just going to be leading to some bigger and better things. But yeah, so it will be starting off the Friday evening, April 29th, with doors open at 4, starting at 6. There will be a team event. Teams are kind of new to some people. So you'll be 6 people per team, 3 doubles games, 2 out of 3. Then the winners advance. So that's how that's going to go. There'll be a Canadian side and an American side. Then the champions will be playing off. So that's one. That'll be the Friday night. Saturday morning doors will open at 8, 9 o'clock for the open doubles rounders, which is 4 games. Then we'll go into 1 p.m. will be the open doubles with the levels 1, 2, 3 with bracket play, double elimination. We will then go to 6 p.m. in ACL swap, which is the random partner each round with that. And then 9 p.m. the U.S. Canadian Pro Exhibition. It will be the Canadians against the American pros. We'll see how that there goes, but that will be, I'm pretty sure there's going to be some extra stuff involved with that. So there's that. Then Sunday, the doors will open again at 8 a.m. again, which will be having the Tier 2, Tier 3 singles at 9 a.m. and at 12 p.m. the Tier 1 singles will start. There's going to be a lot of cornhole that weekend, and I will tell you, you will be able to see it on the Octane Facebook page, maybe even the Down and Back Facebook page. We'll be live streaming all weekend long. You'll be having a lot of me, especially with some other guests coming in to stop in to do some talking. It's going to be a lot of fun. I've already got some people lined up to be able to sit with me. It's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of fun. That's that. So that's April 29th, 30th, and May 1st. Hopefully you've already registered. If not, get on it. For Canadian players, doesn't matter which membership you have, either the free or the platinum, you can register now until March 11th. Then once March 11th comes, everyone else can. If you're on the state side, only platinum members until March 11th. Okay, and then after March 11th, then we can go to gold, silver, and on. So open to any Canadian residents that are ACL, that have an ACL membership. No matter what the color, what the status, you can register for the open. Americans have to platinum only. Other than platinum, you have to wait till March 11th. That's that. There'll be more stuff coming out here very soon. It's daily. I get updates on what's going on. So there's that. I can't wait. I've had a lot of talks with Ty Kasicki, kind of meshing back and forth about what's going on, and I know he's pumped. I'm pumped what's going on, and I think it's just one big way for us to grow. Because I know I've heard from people in BC who's got a foot in the Pacific Ocean. I know Cornhole, Newfoundland, and people in St. John's, foot in the Pacific. So Atlantic, I already have that. They're coming to play. So it is going to be a total cross Canada adventure here with this year. So it will be the biggest cornhole event in Canada. And like I've said, if you're not playing ACL, really, are you actually playing cornhole in Canada? Because ACL is where it is at with regards to cornhole here in Canada. So speaking of that, we have been back playing live, and not sure if any of you have seen it. I got the picture taken on Wednesday night with KW, finally back doing that there. And then last night, if you would have seen the preview show of this show here coming up, what's coming up here today later on in my interview, I was overseeing the people in Dundas, and great people that I wasn't too good in the switcholio part. Then I got the elimination, and something just clicked. I know what it was. Thank you, Brad Billard, for going to get me a beverage, because it happened on Wednesday night. Then it happened last night. He gets me the beverage, and I just turn it up. Unfortunately for my partner Chris, I kind of crapped the bed there at the last. We were in the king seat game. We lost that. Then we lost the next game. So we did finish third place. So I got a fourth on Wednesday night, third on Thursday night. With other life stuff, we got to wait 2 weeks. We'll see if I can make it a second back in KW in a couple weeks. So that's that. And the only other stuff is, if you're needing bags, head over to octanecornhole.com. It's going to be coming up down below here. Discount code CornDoug gets you 10% off of bags. Matt's got a whole range, and they're ready to go. Once you order them, they're getting shipped out either the next day or within a couple days. If you're going to get custom stuff, I say go for it with Octane, because you cannot go wrong throwing Octane bags. Then when you need your boards, you head over to jccornhole.com. Jamie, so I knocked you out on Wednesday night. I'm sorry. I know you said you got to say it on the podcast, so you want. I'm saying it on the podcast. I apologize. So talk to Jamie, help him out, get him some boards, make him feel better by making some boards for you, because a little down this week. So make him feel better. Order some boards and help him out. jccornhole.com. Then, because you want to hear what's going on, or maybe just hear your music, head over to myearfun.com. Get yourself a set of earbuds or a Bluetooth speaker. Discount code CornDoug will get you 20% off of that website, myearfun.com. Then head to, as you can see at the bottom, sierrahome.com. Talk to Darren at Sierra Property Inspections. Some exciting stuff coming up for that there. If you're in the Edmonton, Alberta area, Sherwood Park to be exact. I know there's the Edmonton Cornhole League. I've seen you guys on Facebook, not Facebook, Instagram. Seen you on Instagram. Yeah, check Darren out. He will not steer you wrong. And then csccornhole.com. Get yourself either local bags, fire bags, all cornhole. It's there. Check him out, and you get all Canadian prices for you people here in Canada, getting the bags coming up from the States. And you'll be able to see all of that stuff. They will all be at the ACL Canada Open coming up, as I said, April 29th, 30th, and May 1st. That's that. Let's get to this talk. This interview's been one I've wanted to do for a while, and I've had a lot of fun, and it's sit back and enjoy this year, because Terry has got stories, and I think you'll have a lot of fun. So here is my talk with Terry Morgan. And here we are, as promised, Mr. Terry Morgan back on the show after we had a little bit of difficulties when we had the guys on the show there. But Terry, welcome back to the show.
Thanks very much. I'm glad that I finally had the time to get out here and we connected.
Yeah. But yeah, so we've got some cornhole stuff to talk about. We'll do maybe 2 minutes. We'll fill our cornhole quota with about 2 minutes of cornhole talk. Then we'll get into all the other stuff that I know that I would much rather be talking about. Even though it's a cornhole show, I'd much rather be talking about the other stuff because it gets me back to my youth. That's
there you go. Yeah, everybody grew up wanting to get pal drived in the schoolyard.
Exactly. Yes. So your cornhole stuff, you play at a Dundas with Russ Fisher and Pete and now that very new ACL pro, I call him the silent assassin, Mr. Rick Wiersma. But how'd you get playing with those guys?
Fantastic. I only just met Rick probably within the last month maybe. He plays with us guys all the time, and actually we went to a hockey game last night together too, and I was talking with him, and it's amazing to Canada actually got hooked up with a huge amount of guys that were in Vegas, that are in all these different competitions now, and even with you listening to all this on the computer, they're talking about the Canadians in the competitions now.
Yeah, exactly. It's and it seems like we're almost centralized in this. Like a lot of the guys are centralized in this area, but it's just we've just got a ton of great stuff. And like I said, with Dundas, you playing in Dundas. I've played in Dundas a couple times, and that for a smaller league, that's a lot of competition there.
Oh, I don't know how many pros that we have that's there. I think that are, but like Jamie Cowan comes out, Matt comes out. We have Brad that's been on your show a couple of times from St. Catharines, and like we usually have 25, 35 people that come out on Thursday nights to play with us guys from a big area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know if you've come down to at least one tournament here in Kitchener. I was actually out of town for that tournament that I wasn't able to play. So it was another win that you could have got, but yeah, it's that whole area is just completely blowing up with cornhole.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun coming to Kitchener. That was my first one, and I'll tell you, it's just like it was almost like me. We'll go a little bit farther ahead of ourselves a bit, but the first time that I ever went in the ring, it was just like so terrifying being a professional wrestler and going through those curtains, and I was shaking and I couldn't think straight and everything, and going to the first tournament that was in Kitchener, I was shaking and I couldn't think. I was like, it was just so hard, and all I kept remembering was watching on the internet, and they just tell you, all you want to do is get that bag on the board. No matter what your thinking is, never mind messing around trying to get it in the hole. Throw the bag and get it on the board.
Exactly, yeah. And like I said, we've done our 2 minutes of cornhole stuff. So let's get into the other stuff. Let's get into the other stuff, the more important stuff. I know stuff that I've had a lot of people messaging me saying, "When's Terry coming back on the show?" Because they want to talk about this stuff. They want to hear about this stuff. So you got your start in cornhole in Dundas.
Yes.
You got your start in wrestling in that same area.
I did, yep. You know what? We had there's an arena in Dundas. It's called Greg Meyer, and that's where we had it was called the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, and that was Vince McMahon's father that had that company. And a good friend of mine that trained me. I was young. I used to go to his gym. He had a ring on up in his gym. He had weights all the way around. He had wrestlers from all over the world. And I was probably 14, 15 years old at the time. And I used to go in the ring with Dewey's son, Jason, and Mark, and we would do flips and teach these guys how to do everything in the ring, high fly and stuff like that. And that was the biggest thing for me to be able. And I never thought at that time to ever become a wrestler. Just meeting those guys was the neatest thing to do. Then when watching them and then going to the Dundas Arena, going to Cox Coliseum wasn't there. It was the Forum that was on Barton Street, and seeing these guys in the ring wrestling every night was fantastic for me.
Yeah. And now we should say to people that when you say Dewey's son, Dewey's sons or whatever. That's Dewey Robertson, also known as the missing link.
That's right. Yep, missing link. He's passed away now. He's been gone 5-6 years now, but he was one of the biggest influences. He grew up with my dad's family in the West End of Hamilton, where I live, where I have my barbershop, and he was a real big influence in me, bringing me into the ring.
Well, and that's the thing, and we talked about it before off air, the last time, is that everyone thinks of wrestling in Canada being Calgary with the Hearts in that dungeon, but the Hamilton area was like almost the exact same.
Yeah, it was a mecca. This is where a lot of the places came from. We had right in the Westdale area, right where Westdale High School is, in the shopping area. There was 2 big places that a lot of the guys from all over the world came here and trained. There was a barbershop that was on King Street West that had a wrestling ring inside of it, and there was just a little bit farther west of that area. It was a guy's garage, and he had tires on the floor. He had mattresses on the floor, and he had screwed together a bunch of plywood, and that's where a lot of the guys trained here. And I'm talking about in the 50s and the 60s. So, and then they went into the Ohio Valley. They went to Florida. They went to Pittsburgh. These guys, most of the people came from this area, like you say.
Yeah, so I know some of the names that have kind of come from the area, but can you name some of the bigger names that people may recognize?
Oh, Nick DiCarlo was a huge wrestling name that was from this area. He now lives in Niagara Falls. I went to his school. God, I'd have to go back. I mean, Whipper Billy Watson was actually from this area. He was a huge name in the 50s and the 60s. Andre the Giant came through this territory. Billy Red Lyons was a big guy on CH that everybody's seen commentating. He was part of the Crusaders. There was Dewey Robertson and Billy Red Lyons, and that's where they finished their career.
Well, exactly. And it's, and you say Billy Red Lyons, and all I can think of is Saturday morning wrestling or Saturday afternoon wrestling. Don't you dare miss it with any of the stuff at Maple Leaf Gardens. It was just that it almost become like in everyone's vocabulary in Canada.
Yeah.
With his line.
Yeah, he was he was a big guy. You never ever realized how big of a guy. He wore a suit and stuff. He lived right out near my barbershop, and he was just the nicest guy. They're so approachable, and he was a menace. He was a big man at that time, and because they always trained all the time. The wrestling rings on the outsides always had a gym. They always had weights. They always had bars. Back then, a lot of the times, Dewey would tell me they made castings from cement, and they used those for weights.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then the other big name to come out of the Hamilton area would have to be Angelo Mosca with his CFL and his wrestling career.
Right. Yeah. He got into the wrestling right after he was finished with the CFL and went down to the States. He got into the NWA, got into Florida State Championship Wrestling, got into the WWF, and had a really good career in the WWF for a long time. It was probably a lot of your listeners are younger people. They know his name, and they would only have to be able to go onto the internet to see his matches.
Well, yeah. Well, the thing up here in Canada now that they show up Angelo Mosca is that thing he had at the Grey Cup where he swung his cane at a guy and fell off the stage and everything else. But
I was in Las Vegas, actually. They had a big Hall of Fame night that they had, and they were introducing the guys because they hadn't seen them. And, that's exactly where the fight came. He was in pretty rough shape and everything by the time he had done that, and he swung that cane, missed. But then he got beat up pretty good after that, too, didn't he?
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I'll get in later on, but I know my first live wrestling event, his son, Angelo Mosca Jr., was actually on that card as well too, but it's I don't think his career wasn't as big as Angelo's, but
young Ange had a bad incident in the ring, and he didn't like being in the ring. I met those guys in North Carolina years ago, and young Ange had a little bit of he had a couple of teeth knocked out by accident and took it pretty serious, and never wrestled anymore after that.
Well, I know, and to kind of a bit on that there, but my friend and I, we kept our seats down front, And my dad went up. He knew one of the ushers at the Kitchener Auditorium, was up talking with him. And there happened to be this woman sitting in the section that they were away from everyone else, ended up being his wife. And they were kind of joking with her, you have to go and kind of help nurse his wounds after. And she was like, I got no part of that. So, yeah.
It kind of sounds like my wife too. Yep, my wife would love to come to the matches, but you know what? She just wanted to sit by herself and never wanted to be bothered by anybody, right?
Yeah.
In the Kitchener, I wrestled with a guy for years. I traveled with him in this area. Cowboy Frankie Lane was from Kitchener, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, when you talk about traveling, and we kind of, not to put it back to cornhole for a second, but we had talked about how you've seen all these cornhole players and all their traveling, and you kind of really put a connection between the cornhole travel and the wrestling travel.
Right. You know, and I'll bet you any money that's because I just talked to Rick the other night about it, and I guess Dean Lane just went down into Florida, did a whole bunch of big territory. He didn't go to Vegas, but I was following him on Facebook and stuff, and he was talking about traveling and doing all of these arenas and all the different matches that he was going, all of the different competitions he was going to. And the funny thing was that his car was full of all kinds of candy and donuts and chips and all kinds of stuff like that. And that was exactly all of us guys. Didn't matter who we were, where we were. We'd go in, we'd get gas, and everybody would come back with all kinds of crap candy, and we just travel the road all night long and just eat all that, right?
Yep. Yeah. So, and then, you know, you talked about your first cornhole tournament, being nervous, kind of going into your first match. So, what was your first match? I don't know if to say, obviously you remember it, but.
Yeah, well, actually, so I wrestled actually in a Flamborough arena. It was just up here on Highway 6 and 5. It's not the arena's not there anymore. It's called Harry Howell now. So we had it was a tag team match. They brought me in, and I don't even know. I forget who my partner was. And we had this finish all worked out, and all my friends came, my family came, everything. We're in the ring, and I'm supposed to slam this guy 2-3 times. And then the other two guys his partner was going to come in. My partner was going to come over the top rope. And I'm standing there and I'm running around the ring and everybody was going crazy. But I thought, what the heck is going on? I was waiting for these two guys. The third time I body slammed the guy, I slammed him right through the center of the ring, broke all of the plywood, and one of the poles broke. He went through the ring, and that's why everybody was going crazy, and the match was over.
Well, it's probably like my cornhole game. Just goes to crap.
And that's where the name, I guess, CornDoug Doug came from then, right?
Exactly. Yeah, just nothing fun. So, and as we talked before, you got your start there, but then you went on to some bigger and better things, and even getting to see some of the bigger names.
Yep. Oh, my first match that I had in the WWF. I'll never. That's a funny story too, but exactly the same that we talked about going to Kitchener. I couldn't get enough water in me. I was shaking and everything. So I'm up in Brantford and we're doing the TV tape, and they asked me to come and work with Randy Savage. I had already worked with him, and I worked with his dad in Florida. So I'm standing there and I'm waiting back and forth, and I had to go to the I had a singlet on, I had a pair of long pants on, and a pair of shorts. And I'm waiting for them to introduce my name. I had to go to the bathroom. I took everything off, couldn't go to the bathroom, put everything back on, ran back, did my boots all up, everything like that. And I'm standing there, I thought, shit, I got to go again. I ran back again. They introduced my name, and I said, and Randy was just off to the side, and I'm like, I gotta go. He goes, and he grabbed me and he threw me through the ring. And he said to me after, he goes, it was just nerves. They introduced me, my music came on, and you know what? I never looked back.
Exactly. I'd only been to, I guess my 3 live events have been at Kitchener. Was an old, and I tried to look for it. It was an old PWC, the Professional Wrestling Canada.
Yeah,
I believe it was, and that was one where that's as a younger kid. I think I was only probably about I'm gonna say 12 at the time. And getting to see the Road Warriors coming in and just being and I was sitting right by the ramp where they were coming in, and for a 12-year-old kid, those guys were intimidating coming out.
monsters. You know what? And that was the biggest thing. The size of these guys that we worked with all the time. You know what? I was a pretty big guy. I was, over 250 pounds. I trained all the time, and I got my daughter's a world champion powerlifter. We'll talk about her later and stuff. But I'm sitting in a gym in my house right now, and that's something that we've always done. And every city that we went to, we went in, and the first thing everybody did, we worked out. Then we went to the high schools. We went to the hospitals. We did interviews with everybody and stuff. And it's a long day. People think we just go to the ring, we wrestle, and we're gone. It's a full day. It's a full day of traveling. Back then, I started when I was 17 years old, being on the road. And I would travel. I spend the whole night on the road. There'd be 2, 3, 4 guys in my car with me, and it's a long. And you sleep in the arena. You sleep before, you sleep after, or you're sleeping in the car.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we do, like you said, we talked extensively off air last time, but you're going with those guys, and then you said how you'd have to almost like run into the restaurant first, because whether you wore the black hat or the white hat, you couldn't have been seen together.
No, yeah, you would never ever, and that was the biggest thing back then. They've changed it all. It's gone to this entertainment part, and a lot of us, I'm considered an old guy. I'm still a young kid and stuff like that, and a lot of the guys' eyes and everything. But you walked into a restaurant let's just say we're coming into Kansas City or coming into Pittsburgh or Cleveland or something like that, even into Florida, and you got 5 guys with you, you got 10 guys with you. Walk in, and all the villains are inside that restaurant. You're leaving. Yep. You're going to start a big fight in that thing and start throwing chairs and tables around and stuff like that. Get a little bit of heat for everybody that wants to come to the show, or you just turn around and you walk away. Mm-hmm. That happened a lot of times, and we would go on one side of the road and they'd go on the other side of the road. Yep.
But and I think that was the fun thing, because there was always the stories, especially coming here in Kitchener. You get a couple guys I have friends saying, "Oh, we went down early." And George the Animal Steel was wrestling in Kitchener, and they seen him in his car reading the newspaper.
Right.
Kind of stories like that, right? Because, still to the younger kids, I don't want to say it wasn't real, but it was still just that mindset of who those characters were in the ring.
Yeah, and that's it. You just said exactly what it is. They're characters. It's when I was a kid and I would come home, my father would just be, "Where were you? What were you doing?" And he would just he'd be laughing all the time. It's like, it's a traveling circus. Like you said, we got the Road Warriors. We got the Ultimate Warrior. You got Hulk Hogan. You got the Nasty Boys. All of these monster of characters that you had. It was just a huge traveling circus. And just like, even to go back to, we ran into a huge problem in the 80s when the Pell Driver came in, when the Sleeper came in, the Figure 4 came in. All these kids were doing that at school. Mm-hmm. And we had to put that disclaimer at the beginning of our matches, because we didn't want the kids doing that kind of stuff, right?
Yep.
It made a big difference that way, because it hurts no matter what. I got my teeth knocked out. I got my nose broken 6 times, had my legs, my jaw broken, all my hands. I had just about everything busted.
Yeah, and I got a cousin, I won't name him, that I would get like an extra chocolate bar with that if I could last like 4 minutes in a Figure 4. I never did it. Never did. It wasn't fun.
No, it's not fun. It's exactly right. I wrestled with Randy Savage. I was in Florida, and we got out of the ring and we walked down a little bit. He threw me, had me in a headlock, knocked a bunch of chairs down, and I stood up and he said something to me. I looked up, hit me right between the eyes with his steel chair. I thought my toenails were going to explode off. I fell back on that floor, and I just he left. He went in the ring, and I had no idea what happened to me at all. I thought my whole head exploded with that chair.
Yep.
It's
and that's the thing. Like, you can say that it's all, the whole entertainment thing that they have now, right, but that stuff is still actually happening.
It's happening all the time. The beginning is staged. Well, I'm not even going to use those words. The beginning we talk about, the ending we talk about. All of the rest of that, we have to figure that out. Mm-hmm. I have my moves. He's got his moves, and we just work together. We make sure that we're entertaining those people. By the end of the show, If they're cheering for both of us guys, we did something good, right? Bad guy keeps those guys their bums in the chairs. The baby faces, they're standing up in the arenas cheering for them.
Oh, exactly, yeah, and it's I don't know, like I my wife still always talks about me that I got to bring them over for my son, but I've still got all those the 12-inch WWF figures are in a room right next to me. I had the ring, I had everything, but it was still. I don't want to say it was a lifestyle like Cornhole now, but you kind of lived it because there was all those other extra shows, and you almost felt like part of it at times.
Yeah. Once you get, you know what, Doug? And let's we'll use both of them right now. You're in a stage. These Cornhole guys, they're in a stage, and you hear about it on the ACL all the time. You hear all of these tournaments that you go to. You come in first, second, third, fourth, whatever it is. You're in front of a bunch of people, and they're watching you. Yep. That's a hard thing to take. You're shaking a little bit. You're not quite sure of where you're going to throw that bag, how you're going to throw that bag. And it's muscle memory. We hear that about it all the time, right? Exactly the same thing when you're in the ring and you get those people yelling and screaming your names. That gets into your belly, and that stays there. It stays there for the rest of your life. You're a professional cornhole player for the rest of your life. You're a professional wrestler for the rest of your life.
Well, and now you just saying that there just kind of put another thing back into my head. Where last year there was a big thing between Matt Guy and Adam Hisner, where there was some talk on the boards. There was as if there was some I want to say hatred, but there was some really big back and forth. And then 2 hours later, they're on a plane back to the East Coast, side by side.
With each other is exactly right. And that's heat. That's all there is to it. It makes a difference like that. If they can sell seats, they can put bums in those seats like that. And the more people that are watching the show on TV, brings all the ratings up. Everybody gets paid a little bit more.
Well, exactly. And so you've talked about you being in part of the WWF. I know that I've shared some videos, and there's going to be a couple links down below in the description of the show. You spent some time in the WCW as well too, with some of those big names as well.
Yep, Sting. We had Sting down there. Had Lex Luger was down there. Oh my gosh, there was.
Well, with one of the videos talking about playing the character, you were in a match with Kamala.
Yeah, that's exactly. There was three of us guys in the match with Kamala. Exactly right. Yeah, the Ugandan giant, and he threw me across and it was the two guys were outside. I was in the ring with them. And all he did, I ran across the ring, jumped up into his arms, and he held on to me as tight as he could, and I held him. I didn't want him putting me on the ground and jumping on top of me because that hurts for a long time.
I would guess so, yes.
I was standing waiting on the outside. I was waiting for my match to go in. I don't know who it was, but Kevin Sullivan and Kamala had just wrestled with this young kid. And they jumped off one of the ropes and jumped on the guy's belly. He crapped his pants. I'm standing there as a young kid, and this kid runs past us, and he's holding his pants, taking out, running to the washroom to the shower. And I was like, well, you know what? If I have to wrestle those guys, I'm going in the ring and holding on to Kamala for a long time.
Well, and that was the thing. Like, well, you got some TV time with those guys there, but that was on, like, I don't want to say the big heyday, but it was that big. Because that was the big splash when the two WCW, WWF at the time were really kind of going back and forth on the TV. So you guys it was almost like a big card every night.
Big for both. It was ratings, right? That's what we wanted. We wanted ratings, and that's all there is to it. The more the ratings were, the better we put the product that was out on the stage like that. That makes a big difference that way. We all had a payday, and it was a tough time. Because just before I left the WWF and went to the WCW, we were working almost every single night, plus twice on Saturday and twice on Sundays. So I'm flying, and I'm driving in my car. I'm doing 500 miles every single day. Now, when I go to Atlanta, I'm coming in. I'm doing TV shoots. I'm doing some Florida stuff. I'm doing the Carolinas. The travel was very minimal down there.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, because I'd only been to the, like I said, the PWC match, which was an old AWA kind of. They were in with AWA. Went to a couple of WWF events that were in Kitchener. Then WCW came to town much later. Once there was all the TV stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember because they were doing some TV taping, and I'm like, these guys are wrestling like 2 and 3 times the same match because they're doing the TV taping, and that was another time that name just totally just went out of my head here now.
Yeah.
But I remember watching it on one of the WCW shows. He actually said he was in Kitchener, was trying to talk about the horrible people in Kitchener, but he says Kingston, and even says it on TV. And the name's gonna pop. I'm gonna later in the show. It's gonna pop in my head. I'm just gonna say it out. But I know it was one of the bigger Canadian guys from Winnipeg. But yeah, it was. But yeah, it was fun because and now still thinking of the guy. I just seen him on a replay of him on that little podcast thing that Stone Cold does. But
okay, yes, right. His show that he does, right?
Yeah, but that was the thing. So so also in that time would have been like and we talked about it the last time with Matt Guy being the Ric Flair of Cornhole. You said you got to have some time with him as well too.
Oh, well, you know what? He was fantastic to watch. I mean, he's still around and stuff like that, but there's nobody that could go, and they just talked about it on Steve Austin's show a couple of weeks ago. They said there was nobody that could go every single night, 7 days a week, and do a 1 hour match.
Yep.
That's a tough. I mean, we had, the longest I was probably in the match was probably 25 minutes. And you know what? That took the most out of me. I was a mess for a couple of weeks after that because you're timing yourself. You're getting that oxygen. You're learning how to breathe, making sure that you're standing up and being able to work with the guy, getting on the ground. He's working with your leg, working with your arm. And while he's doing that, you're actually breathing and concentrating on what's going on out there. I worked with Jake the Snake Roberts one time. A kid took off. I had nothing else to do. I had already been in my street clothes. Gorilla Monsoon found me, and he says, "You got to do me a favor." I said, "Yep, no problem at all." He threw me into the corner, but held on to my hand. I couldn't get around far enough and hit my kidneys and bruised my kidneys. Almost passed out, lied me down, and pinned me. But the funniest part of that whole story is I was on the ground in so much pain, and he had rolled me in the snake.
Yeah.
I'm terrified of snakes. When I came up, I looked and I screamed and I put my head back down. After we were finished the match, I went in the back. Terry Taylor was in the back and he said, "Terry, hold on a minute. I got to show you something." And they had the camera right on my face with the snake like that and showed it for about 6-8 weeks. It probably was even longer, or it wasn't even that long. But that was exactly what they showed on the WWF at the beginning of the WWF for a long time.
Yeah.
Me freaking out like that. Yeah, you know what? It's a long road, and it's a long, lonely road.
Yeah. Well, and you hear so many of the guys say that, and it's almost like Cornhole can be that too. Like because we talked, Dean Lang he went and one time he did South Carolina, come back up. He went over to Texas and kind of came back around too. So Cornhole is becoming that same thing.
Yeah. It's getting really big. I really like watching it on TV. I have it on at the barbershop and stuff. I watch it on Las Vegas. I mean, they had Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Yeah. If I wasn't doing anything, I had it on my iPad, had it in front of me, in front of the TV, and it was great to watch all the different matches of those guys.
Exactly. Now thinking we could call you the barber as for your Cornhole name. It's we'll take on Mr. Beefcake. But you could be just like that.
That's exactly right. We got to find a name, I guess, if that's where the cornhole's going. Because I guess the guys don't really. Some of the guys have nicknames, right?
Yeah.
So, but not a lot of them.
No, it's still. I think when I first came into Cornhole, there was a lot of people making up their team names, but then it went to like your names, and now that the nicknames we're getting more TV time, more view. I think the nicknames are starting to come back and starting to stick, which I think just draws more stuff to the people here.
Yeah, well, there's a guy, one of the commentators, who got on the back of his shirt, Tornado.
Yeah,
he's a fantastic guy to listen to because he's really good talking because he goes right through every single guy, and I really enjoy listening to him instead of a blank screen, right?
Yeah. We're hoping to get Chris Tornatola, the Tornado, up here to do some stuff because he's been on the show and he's another just a fantastic guy because probably like wrestling is you get them away from the spotlight or away from the ring and they're just normal guys that just want to go and have a beer and and just talk.
Yeah, and that's the same with us guys. There was no difference in all. No matter who you looked at. I mean, you got to think. You got Hulk Hogan coming at you. The guy's 6'8", 6'10", 310 pounds. He's a monster. Yep. Andre the Giant was 7'2", 500 pounds. He's a monster of a guy. Sit in the change room and play cards with him all day. We always had something to do. We're there 3-4 hours before the match. We have interviews we have to do. We got to prepare ourselves. Guys got to put makeup on, put all their gimmicks on and everything like that. And like you said, in Kitchener, you're getting to see, let's take this back a little bit farther for a lot of the people too, because TV tapings are about every 6-8 weeks they are. So we'll tape in a couple of days. We'll do an hour show, and a guy like me, I enhanced guys. I went in the ring and did a lot of stuff with the guys. Well, I'd wrestle 3 or 4 times in a night. Plus, you'd see Hulk Hogan. You'd see, Bret Hart and the Anvil come out. You'd see the British Bulldogs. All these big names would be coming out, but they coming out and doing a show so that for the next 5 or 6 weeks, you got to see that on your Saturday afternoon.
Yeah. Well, and I even said, the one night that up in Kitchener there was a Harley Race and Macho Man, where Randy Savage were wrestling, yeah. And then because you talk about what's going to happen in the matches, and almost the same match happened on TV somewhere else,
right? Like
the next week that I was watching it, the same thing happened in the match, and just the same as I still remember another night where Don Morocco, Magnificent Morocco, was wrestling, and his partner didn't show.
Yes.
And so it then became where he went from being with Mr. Fuji, being the bad guy, to Hercules Hernandez at the time, right, who was one of his partners, came out and then all of a sudden turned good.
Yes.
And they went against each other, right?
Yeah, so that wouldn't have been a TV match. So he was on, one of them was up, they were both on the card. They were both there. They both made it for that show. So they just put him, so one of them comes out as a babyface, one comes out as a heel, and they go, and as long as the people in the stands are getting a good show, that's what they paid for.
Well, and again, that same thing then played out on TV a couple of weeks later, and we're like, that already happened, or the one, and we joked about it off air last time, was that the Killer Bees were wrestling. I think they're wrestling the not the Legion of Doom, but that other one that they had with the mask guys.
Yeah.
But I just forget the name of it now. What there was Anvil and Axe and Smasher, the Demolition.
Oh, Demolition. Yeah.
So they were wrestling, and I forget which one of the Killer Bees couldn't make it. I think Brian Blair couldn't make it.
Yeah.
So they had SD Special Delivery Jones come in and take his spot, right?
Yeah.
Wearing the Killer Bee wrestling trunks, and if anyone knows Special Delivery Jones, he does not look like Brian Blair at all.
No, that's exactly.
and as usual, because that was the thing, they went and put the masks on. No one could tell them apart.
Right.
They still did that there at the end of the match, and it was like, you're looking at it and you're going, am I really seeing this?
Is exactly. And they still use that gimmick a lot too, right? A guy will have a retirement match, right? He's gone. He lost. He's finished. He's gone. He may need an operation. He may need some time off because his wife's having a kid, whatever. Well, then all of a sudden he comes back and he's got a hood on. He's got different pants. He's got jeans on or whatever. He's wrestling exactly the same as Don Morocco. That's Don Morocco. Everybody knows. But you know what? It may take 2, 3, 4 weeks before somebody comes in, beats him, has him down on the ground, puts him in a sleeper hold, and they pull the mask off him. Now he's back.
Well, I'm just thinking about that there. It was that, to go back with that, it was the time when the Machines came back.
Yeah.
And Andre the Giant wearing a mask. That's the one guy who a mask is not going to hide him.
No, he pretty much stands out with his mask on or without a mask on.
Exactly. But again, that was still just, I don't want to say the fairy tale of the whole thing, but just the fun part of the whole thing where
right,
you kind of were in the know.
Well, you know what, and that's the biggest thing is it's not a fairy tale. We're telling a story to the people. This is the new thing that's gone on now, right, Doug? There's so much. People are a lot smarter. Vince McMahon changed a lot of stuff when he went from, the WWF, the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, to the entertainment part of it, and he said, this is entertainment. Well, that's exactly what it is. Still entertainment, and people, have got to be able to watch. Now, in New York City and Connecticut, we have a school that's there, and they have the contest where the guys come in, train, learn how to fall, do all kinds of stuff. They get a gimmick, they learn how to perfect their gimmicks and everything like that, and it takes a long time. The difference with the wrestling nowadays is they're a lot of the finishing moves are being used in one match. We only use put a guy in a sleeper, he's gone. Yep. Put a guy, you go in a figure four leg lock. You're not getting up and walking out of that ring. If not, a couple of referees are going to come in and they're going to take you out. This is serious stuff. Now these kids are not lasting that long in the wrestling ring anymore. They're coming in for a year. They're coming in for 2 years, and they fade away somewhere. Because it's serious stuff. We can't tell the kids, we can't tell the parents enough that, you know what, this is serious stuff. It's great for the entertainment for your kid to watch us wrestle. It's great to see bad against good, good against bad, the whole bit. But we're trained athletes too.
Well, and I kind of go back to when you were wrestling, and that those moves were just, there was always the regular stuff. But now it seems like they have to one-up everybody all the time.
Yes.
Right? And it has to be you have to go higher. You have to be faster. It has to be look more punishing, I guess, for lack of a better term. And I think that's what really kind of, makes the difference.
What's changing the styles of everything, right? And this is the problem. The body can't hold up the way that it did before. Let's go back to Ric Flair. He had his regular moves. Randy Savage had his regular moves. Hulk Hogan, clothesline, leg drop. Yeah. Pin you, it's over and done with. Randy Savage comes off the top rope, drops an elbow on you. Whatever it was, Don Morocco, do a pile driver. How many guys do you know that have had their necks broken in the ring? Mm-hmm. There's I don't want to say 100, but there's so many people that have done that. So this is the problem that they're having. These kids that are in the ring now, in the WWE, in this AEW and stuff like that, the stuff that they're doing, their bodies can't last. Mm-hmm. You need a new hip. You need a new knee. You get concussions. One of the guys that came with me, that traveled with me and started Edge, Adam Copeland's from Toronto. He broke his neck. He's got his neck fused together in his neck with plates. Yeah. Because of the stuff that he did.
Well, even like Steve Austin even says that as well too. He's got so much stuff that's wrong with him. It's almost all of the guys who, I'm going to say that I idolized growing up, but it's just. You can say it, but there's actually real stuff that's going on.
Yeah. Oh, my kids laugh at me about me all the time. They see the guys get up, they're doing interviews, they're talking and stuff, and Steve Austin will get up, Bret Hart will get up, he'll walk away and stuff, and my kids laugh and it's like, Dad, that's you. You move exactly the same as those guys. Yeah. And it makes a difference.
Yeah, but like you said, so yeah. See, with the other big corporations and that you've been with, because that's kind of what they are.
Yeah.
Did you ever have any interaction with like Vince McMahon or Vince Senior or even with, I don't want to say Ted Turner, but there was with the guys that were in head of WCW?
Yeah. No. Before all of the contracts came out, before all the lawyers came out, when I got into WWF, I was here. I was wrestling with a bunch of companies that were in the United States, and then they got a hold of me here when they started to travel across the border, because the WWF did not come in that much into Canada. They came into Calgary, came into BC. There was a couple of companies there. They were in Buffalo, but they very seldomly did they ever come into Southern Ontario. So they were doing TV tapings here. I was off for a little bit, healing and stuff. And Nick DiCarlo they called his school and asked me if I would come down. I ended up meeting Vince McMahon. Gorilla Monsoon got me out of the change room, went and had an interview with him. Next day, jumped on an airplane. I flew off to New York, signed a contract, and I signed my contract, and I had a pay-per-wrestle contract. And so I didn't have a storyline, didn't have anything like that, but I just started to travel with those guys all over. And as I wrestled, that's when I got paid. So whether I was hurt or whether I wasn't hurt, I still went to work every day. So I wrestled 5 days a week, twice on Saturday, twice on Sunday. But whether I flew or I drove, I still had to make it to the show.
Mm-hmm. So with the interaction with Vince, is he away from the TV with that big ego type guy,
No,
or is he just
yeah,
they almost say the normal guy, but just the normal guy?
he's a normal guy. You guy's a multi-billionaire, as everybody knows. He's Mr. McMahon on TV,
Mhm.
on in front of the people, everything like that. He's no difference at all. Randy Savage said it millions of times. God, a lot of the guys would say we're no different than anybody else that's out there. We put our pants on exactly the same way as anybody else, but we're out there entertaining people. It's the only difference we are, right? Guys put painting on their face. I was a good guy. I was a bad guy. Sometimes I would change right in the middle of the ring, become a bad guy. I went in as a baby face one time, and Neil Carr, he's passed away now, and he was the biggest, nastiest guy you ever seen in your life. And we were wrestling in his hometown. I couldn't do anything right at all. They booed the crap out of me. And we're looking at each other, and we're like, what the hell are we going to do? I thought, okay, the hell with it. I started hitting them, threw them out of the ring, hit them with chairs, put them through a table. Everybody was going crazy for him.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know what the people want, you just give it to them. But you got to listen, right? You look and you listen to what's going on.
Yeah, and I think that would probably be the hardest thing. I don't want to say hard, but it would have to be hard to really try and go out to have one thing in mind, and then you have to switch gears. Because I remember, I think I heard Ricky Steamboat talk about his match, and now I think it was with Randy Savage, I think, at WrestleMania, I want to say 3 at the Pontiac Silverdome, where they had like a whole hour.
Right.
When they talked, and they even showed where they had like the whole script down of what they were all going to do. That's not an easy thing to do.
No, and that was, like you said, that's an hour, and this is all just coming out right now, Doug. Right, so we can talk about that now, right? Yep. It's a big difference like that. They have the paperwork from that whole match. Ricky Steamboat brought that out, did an interview, and got to show everybody exactly what it was. And they both went 1, 2, 3, 4, and they worked with each other. They did dark matches all the time, almost every night. They were traveling with us guys, and they would go on and do dark matches, and they'd work right through for 6-8 weeks before they went to WrestleMania. And it was beautiful. It was just like it was a dance in the ring. And they just, like we just talked about, it's entertaining. They have the match. These guys are top professionals, and they're listening to the people in the audience, and they're entertaining them the way that they want them to be entertained.
Oh, exactly. Because I remember myself again, Kitchen Auditorium with like 9,000 people there, just watching on the big screen. Yeah. And just the way people went there, it was just, I think for me, nothing, not to take any away from any of the wrestlers now, but I don't think you could beat the stuff that went on in the 80s for any wrestling stuff, which just because I think there was just so much more to it. I don't want to, not that I'm putting anything down, but I just thought there was more to it.
It was wrestling back then, buddy. That's exactly what it was. We had guys, we go out and, we just got to meet each other or something like that. It's like, what do you want to do? Okay, I'm going to work on your arm. Okay. Or you do a leg. So you got 10 minutes, you got 15 minutes, whatever it is. And we have routines that we all have to do. So you go and you're entertaining people. You're working on that leg. You're pounding that leg. You're pounding that guy's arm. But you're looking outside. Everybody's going and being entertained. He's being dragged around all 4 corners of that circle, and people are standing up and they're going crazy. That baby face gets to come and gets to climb. The people go crazy, gets kicked in the leg, and down he goes. Everybody sits down. Yep. Nowadays, it's just there's too much stuff going on. There's too many things going on. Many times, somebody wanted to do a run-in and stuff like that. Vince McMahon never, ever allowed that. 2 guys in the ring, referee in there trying to control something or doing whatever the hell he's doing. But you know what? When the match is over, out you go. Yep. No, we finished our matches. You pin them. 1, 2, 3, it's over and done with, right? Unless you're King Kong Bundy. I wrestled with him many times, and he got me 5 times, buddy.
There's so many names from back then that, you just have to say like any kind of name, and you've got like 10 images in your head of stuff that they did, right? And and it's really it's because they were doing the whole. I had the whole wrestling album, and even Jimmy Hart put out his own album of his own music, and then the cartoons that they had going on, and it was I don't want to say more wholesome, because now it kind of went. There's the whole X-rated thing and the whole lights and the show and we talk about it here with different cornhole leagues and stuff that it's all the bright lights get everyone that it's just that almost the bright lights and stuff take away from the actual product.
That's what it
right?
is.
And the '80s was only product.
Yeah, they're losing the entertainment part of it, aren't they?
Yeah,
that's the biggest thing. A funny story before we go. I was because King Kong Bundy wasn't there one night. So I was wrestling with this guy, Scotty Riggs from the States. We were two fairly even guys, height-wise and stuff like that. So Bundy didn't show up. So Big John Studd, he showed up because they were partners together. And he said to me, he goes, Terry, will you work with me? I said, yeah, for sure. He goes, I'm not doing nothing. It's you. I'm standing in the ring. He was tired. I don't know if they went drinking that night or the night before or nothing. So we squared off in the ring. We locked up, everything like that. He threw me across the ring. I come up, I drop kick him. He goes down to one knee. I start hitting him, picks me up, body slams me, stand up, throws me off the rope. I run into him again, and all he did was he stood up. I beat him. I threw some punches, drop kicks. He went down onto his knee. I do what I had to do. He'd stand back after the match. The referee goes, okay, we're going home. Okay, he takes me, throws me in the ring, but hits me in the corner, puts me down, and he pinned me. He never did a thing the whole 15 minutes. I worked my ass off. He never moved at all.
So was that when he had the bag of cash that Heenan was carrying around?
No, that he was working with a bunch of guys for that money. Is exactly yeah. Oh, when he was paying guys to knock them down.
Or because then they had the whole thing with the body slam.
Body slam them.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, that was something that was later on that was, yeah.
Yeah.
That just came to me. I remember that too.
Well, yeah. And it's even like it even come out with after Andre passed away too, where guys of that size where if they didn't want you to do something, you weren't going to do it. And even Hogan said that, that Andre said, he had to give him the okay to body slam him at WrestleMania 3. That's
right. Yeah, you're not going to pick a 550-pound guy up and expect that. I mean, he's got lead in his feet. He stands down on that. He's not. I don't care how big Hulk Hogan was.
Yeah.
And that's all there is to it. I mean, and he had all the power that he could to pick him up, and he just got him up and body slammed him, right? And we've heard the interview on there and stuff like that, and it was time for Hulk Hogan to take the belt, time to move on and everything like that, and I mean, Andre the Giant he lasted a lot longer, but by the time he was gone, it was pretty sad. And I traveled, I met him when I was a kid at Dewey Robertson's gym. It was just, he used to call me a kid. Hey kid, come here. He'd give me $10 in the States and I'd get it because he wasn't allowed to drink. And I used to get him little Mickeys, go to the liquor store and get Mickeys, and you put them in his top pocket of his jacket. He was just such a nice man.
For him, those would be like the mini bottles for us.
They're like the airplane bottles. Exactly.
Well, because again, we've seen some of the shows. You get Jake Roberts was talking about how like Andre had like a 48 pack in the back of a van the one night. While Jake was driving him around.
That's right. Even Dewey Robertson drove him around. He had the little small, the regular size minivans, but the smaller boxes, and he took the seat out of the back of the van, and Andre would sit down in the back of that van. It was a sliding door, and he had a cooler in front of him full of beer, and there was an extra case of 24 behind him.
Yeah.
And Dewey would drive all over the place with him in the back of the van. Yep. But a nice man. Oh, he was the nicest, easiest spoken guy. That baseball glove would come at you, and he would hardly touch you when he shook your hand.
Yeah. So that was then. What are you up to now? Where can people find you now, and what you're doing?
Well, kind of a funny story. I'm a barber now. I knew long time ago that wrestling was not going to be something I was going to do for my whole life. Early on, I went to barbering school. I learned my trade. I'm married. I have 2 great kids, and I have my barbershop in the West End of Hamilton, right near the McMaster University. I've had it just over 40 years that I've had the business. While I was working, had people working for me, and I traveled and things like that. But yeah, that's what I'm doing now. It's fantastic. I get to tell my stories. That's my stage now. Everybody laughs. I got 6 milk crates full of wrestling figures. And I have a couple of rings in the barbershop. I mean, it hasn't happened for 2 years because of COVID.
Yep.
The kids come in and they play with them and stuff like that. They're on the floor while their brothers, while their sisters, while their dad is getting a haircut. Have lots of fun in there, but that's exactly what I'm doing. It's great.
Exactly, and that's how I got to know you, was with a mutual friend, Russ Fisher, out of Dundas. And he would say, he says he goes and he just sits in the barbershop, and you guys just talk long ago about, because in that, from that area, there's Johnny Canine came from there.
Yep.
He talks with him. We can't not mention Canada's greatest athlete, Iron Mike Sharp.
Yep, one of the greatest guys, fantastic guy. Very, very sad to see. He came back. Him and his dad moved, and his mom, they moved to Connecticut years ago when he was a young kid. I met him in the WWF years ago when he came out of Florida, and then he moved back. His mom was here, living on the mountain, and he was full of cancer. Terrible thing like that. And I mean, I'm 60 years old now. I consider myself pretty good. It seems to be 50-55 that a lot of these guys seem to pass away. I get emails, I get texts, all kinds of different stories from people, and it's just a sad thing like that, right? Yeah.
So I'm hoping I'm going to be get down to Dundas to see you play some cornhole, get some cornhole with you. And for anyone watching, I'm hearing that there could be a tournament coming up soon that someone else talked about a couple weeks ago. We're still waiting for it to be announced, or it could have been announced by the time we put this show. We don't know.
Okay.
But from what I'm hearing, if any of the people from the States that come up and want to talk wrestling, it's only a short drive from what I hear where it could be to Terry's barbershop, and right. You can get a new haircut before you hit the TV stage and talk some wrestling with Terry.
Yeah, fantastic. Anybody wants to come and say hi to me, I'd love to talk with them. You know what? I'm an approachable guy, just like coming on your show, and I have the barbershop. And like I say, I talk about it all the time. People come in the barbershop, especially with the internet nowadays, right?
Yep.
It's just I have all the McMaster University football players, basketball players, after 2 or 3 times coming in, I got pictures in the barbershop. I got all the cards from all the different matches and stuff like that. So everybody's like, "That's you?" I'm like, "Yeah, probably a long time ago, but it was."
Yeah.
So, yep.
So again, thanks for coming on, and I have to say, for anyone who wants to go and even play cornhole with Terry, head over to Dundas Cornhole League. They play at the Air Force Center in Hamilton, and
Air Force in Dundas.
Yeah, can't leave without saying you got to go there and play it, and don't you dare miss it.
There you go, brother. Fantastic. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
This is what I want to do, and like I said, I had a ton of people wanting to see this here and talk about it. So I think we had some fun as I say, we've been here for an hour, and it's and we're just talking fun.
Right on, brother. I appreciate it a lot.
Okay, and then again, thanks for coming on and doing this.
Yep. Well, no problem.
And there it is. Again, I want to thank Terry for coming on, helping me relive some of my youth going through, because I think like us all, we were all big 80s wrestling fans. And I know after I recorded that talk with Terry, we talked for another hour about even more stories. So that means that he has to come back for. I'm saying part 2. We could even have a part 3, part 4, whatever you want. We're going to have some fun with some more stories. And you know what? Leave a comment down below if there's a wrestler that you want to know back from the 80s of what they were like, or if he has a story. Leave a comment below. I want to know. I want to know who your favorite wrestler was, or if you have a comment or a question for Terry, put it down in the comments, and I will make sure it gets asked next week. Or, sorry, not next week, but the next time he's on, because we have someone else here next week. But yeah, so that's enough for me. Make sure, hopefully you have registered for the Open that's coming up in at the Niagara Convention Center, Scotiabank Convention Center there in Niagara Falls, and check out your hotels for there, because there is a bunch that are close. I know there's going to be a lot of stuff going on at the event center, so you want to be staying close there, because you don't need a long walk or a long drive. There's a lot of hotels that are right in that area. Check them out, and maybe maybe you might see me in your hotel. If not, be at the Open, stop by, say hi, or watch, say hi in the chat. We've still got, another almost 2 months to go here. And if you're in the States, watch out for me. Like I said last week, I'm coming to a conference event near you. I'm not going to say which one it is yet, but I'm coming there, and we're going to have some fun. I may not be able to play, but I can talk, and we can have some fun. So I think that's it for me. Till next week, I'll tease it. We can level up next week. And yeah. So watch out for those players throwing gas. I can say me this time, because they might, and I will, kick your ass.